All right, guys. So after talking a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, we already know the whole deal or anything. I don't think there's anything more to really say at this point. So we'll just move on to the next topic here. And then we also do have another topic too. I know I didn't put it in the slides or anything, but we'll kind of coincide it with the draft talk. So let's talk about the draft a little bit. I know a lot of talk has been going on about the draft. The draft is already literally a month away. April 27th, it's the draft is going to be starting, something like that. I know it's at the end of April. So we have some big names right now. We have some big quarterbacks that are looking to get drafted this upcoming draft season. A lot of them over here, as you can see from Alabama, it is Bryce Young. Over here, as you can see, is CJ Stroud from Ohio State, Anthony Richardson from Florida, and you have Will Levis, who is someone that we kind of been hearing a little bit more about this season, this offseason at least, from Kentucky. So let's talk about the four quarterbacks. I'll kind of give you my ideas as far as which of these quarterbacks do I feel like is going to get drafted first. I know a lot of people are saying that CJ Stroud is going to be taken number one overall first. And right now, from what it looks like, Carolina, after getting that big blockbuster trade with the Chicago Bears, trading away DJ Moore for the number one overall pick. Um, I believe personally, I know a lot of people were thinking Stroud is going to be the guy that's going to be taken first. But I feel like Carolina might look into getting Bryce Young first. I know Bryce Young, I know a lot of people have been really saying about Bryce Young, like not overly criticizing him. But I know a lot of people are saying that he is not NFL ready in terms of like he's not ready to be like a day one starter. Which I can agree to some sense. But if he gets drafted by Carolina first, I feel like Carolina is going to be a nice fit for him. Considering what they do, considering what they have, and not only that, he's also going to be under the mentorship of Andy Dalton. So Andy Dalton is a bridge quarterback. Obviously, he has been a journeyman for the last 4 seasons. After being the 10-year veteran for the Cincinnati Bengals, he's been the backup for literally a lot of other teams, the Cowboys, the Bears. Last season was the Saints. This year, he is with the Carolina Panthers. And I believe that Dalton is going to be starting for the Panthers. And I think that's what their idea is going to be under Frank Reich. But I also believe that Bryce Young is going to be someone that's going to fit into this offense very well under Frank Reich. And I feel like he can work with him very well because Frank Reich is the guy that's like really good in terms of mentoring young quarterbacks and young teams. And I feel like Carolina, with a lot of young players that they do have, they also have some nice veterans in the room too. That's going to help him grow as a player and as a leader. Like Adam Thielen, for example, is a pickup that they got during free agency, which is a nice fit for Carolina. And I think that he could be, can be serviceable for that team as well. And another team that I also believe is going to be drafting a quarterback is the Colts. And I think the Colts are going to take Anthony Richardson as like that running style quarterback. I feel like he fits into the coach Stetchen from the Colts offensive scheme because he was the guy that worked under Jalen Hurts and did a nice job of developing him. I feel like he's going to be learning under this offense too, and he could be a day one start. Well, not day one starter, but he will eventually get his role in the starting point of the season in case of like Gardner Minshew does not play well. As far as CJ Stroud goes, maybe the Texans are at number 2. I don't know exactly who's at number 3 at this point in time. I kind of forget. Scott, you can kind of mention that when I kind of hand the mic over to you. And then Will Levis, I feel like he's a big athletic guy with a nice strong arm. But I don't know another team that's going to desperately want to draft a first rounder prospect. So I'll kind of hand the microphone over to you, Scott. I know we kind of talked about these young quarterbacks a little bit. We kind of gave each other a little bit of ideas before, a little bit as well, and even off screen as well. So kind of just talk about this draft. Like, what are you thinking right now? What's your mindset of this draft, and what do you think your predictions are going to be?
So it's Chicago, and then it's the Texans, and then it's the Cardinals, and then it's the Colts at 4, Seattle at 5, Lions at 6, and then
I would have to look at it really quick.
I just looked at it. So after the Lions, I didn't remember. I remember the first 6, but like after that, I couldn't remember. But anyways,
no, I know Carolina now has the number 1 pick. I know there was talk about Carolina trying to trade back with that pick. Oh, Carolina. So so I have Carolina at 1, Houston at 2, Arizona at 3, Colts at 4, Seattle at 5, Lions are 6, Raiders are 7, Falcons are at 8, Chicago's at 9, and the Eagles are 10. So obviously, out of all those teams right there is only 3 teams that I believe are going to pick a quarterback, and it's going to be the Panthers, the Texans, and the Colts. Because I feel like every other team, Seahawks may be looking into getting a young stud, but they might be looking somewhere later in the draft too. Because I think they signed that extension with Geno Smith. So I think they're going to be satisfied with him. So I don't think they're going to get anybody in this round. But what are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Seattle was one of the teams that was mentioned in like podcasts and videos that I saw all through social media of taking Anthony Richardson, if he's still there, and just having him sit behind Geno for a year, because I think they signed Geno to like a 3-year deal to where they can get out in a year, if not 2. But other than that, the Raiders are still in there, but I think them signing Jimmy Garoppolo is more a bridge quarterback, but at like a long-term deal now, because obviously Jimmy G is still young, so they could play him for, a couple years. This is so like Josh McDaniels doesn't get fired, obviously, this year or next year. Jimmy G will play good. They'll be like a 500 team, or like, 10-7. Yeah, 10-7, or maybe 11-6, if they have the chance. If all the cards fall, that's the right thing. But I think going with the Panthers, a lot of the talk is that Bryce Young is the best pro-ready quarterback, but I'm like the skeptic how it is with the analysts. He's too small, he's too thin, too short, all that. So I think CJ Stroud is a better pick. And to tell you the truth, I actually like Google searched Alabama quarterback. That's where Bryce Young is from. I couldn't remember his name at first, but it's actually kind of funny. So, like, obviously, we know the 3 that are playing right now. Tua played at Alabama, Jalen Hurts played at Alabama, and Mac Jones played at Alabama. Obviously, Jalen Hurts ended up transferring, and then I think Tua came out before Mac Jones, and, Mac Jones was the most recent one. But before that, there was A.J. McCarron, and obviously he's in the XFL now. But, like, after that, it's all of, like, some older names and whatnot. But it's kind of funny if you look at the list. If you look at the same list that I do, is the only really good quarterback that actually won a Super Bowl is, believe it or not, was Joe Namath was part of Alabama way back in the day, and he won a Super Bowl with the Jets. So the record isn't that bad, but we know how it is with quarterback, and it's like there's 2 schools that teams talk about, or NFL analysts talk about with quarterbacks, and it's Ohio State and Alabama, because none of the quarterbacks they draft ever amount to like winning a Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's how I feel about that. Richardson's kind of like what's his name? He's like DK Metcalf of the quarterbacks. He's built like a alien, and like
he's got a cannon of an arm. Like if you watch the the videos of like the trainings and everything that's going on from the NFL Instagram page, like you can tell this guy has a cannon of an arm.
Yeah.
And and when he throws, when you watch everything that he does, his mechanics and everything, like he puts his whole entire body into that long, deep throw. Like it's unbelievable how deep he can throw that football to. And if he gets help around, and if he gets drafted by Indy and he gets a lot of help around him too, the Colts could easily be like a dark horse at that point.
Yeah, he's like a Josh Allen. How Josh Allen has like a big arm, and you can probably relate him to like Lamar has a big arm. There's a couple other quarterbacks.
He's got nice speed too, which is something that the Eagles, liked with Jalen Hurts, and
Yeah,
with a play caller from coming from the Eagles with a running quarterback, Richardson is going to fit into that system. Steve Setchin is going to want to build that offense to be like a more of like a run option type of offense.
yeah. I think I don't like the comp to Cam Newton because I was never a big fan of Cam Newton, and I thought he was like a bum at the end of his career. But that's neither here nor there. He was also like a big wardrobe kind of guy. He was always about the flashiness of the NFL. But I like Richardson. I would love to see what his numbers were when, like 2 years ago, when Kyle Pitts was there. Kyle Pitts were Gators, right? Richardson was the quarterback and Pitts was the tight end, right? We're talking about the same team, Florida, the Gators.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I like to see those numbers. I'd go back and look at those. Believe it or not, Will Levis, excuse me. Will Levis is he's getting less and less media coverage. He used to get a lot. I think it was before like free agency. He was like the third best, and then like once the Columbine came out, Richardson's stock went sky high, and now Will Levis is like the fourth guy on the list. So like, I don't know his tape and how he looked at Kentucky. I heard he also has a big arm, so I'd like to see how that folds. But other than that, there are like other quarterbacks. There's Tennessee's quarterback Hendon Hooker, who's like linked to like the Lions, which I don't really see. You watch all these draft analysts come out with like all these 1 to 32 or like the top 2 rounds or something, and you see certain quarterbacks go to certain teams, and you just like, I don't see it. But as far as the top 10 goes, yeah, we're gonna see the Panthers obviously take someone, Texans obviously take someone, and the Colts probably take someone. Anybody else might be just like a shock. Like Seattle, you could see it, but outside of that, I really don't see anybody else.
No, I don't think anybody needs it. Like obviously the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Bills, they have their franchise guys already. The Jacksonville Jags, they have their guys already. So they definitely will not be looking for a quarterback. Like those are the ones that are already out, and the Bengals too. So they're out already.
I'm honest, like the quarterback pool in the last 6 or 7 years, if you want to put it like that scope, there's been a big like flux of like all these new quarterbacks, Lamar, Herbert, Allen, Burrows, Mahomes, all these quarterbacks that are young now have come out in the last 5 or 6 years or 7 years or so. So it's not like we're looking at these, old guys. It's not like Peyton Manning still in the league or Tom Brady or like Brett Favre or like
Big Ben, Roethlisberger, or
like Hasselback or something like that. We got a lot of young guys and just like 2 or 3 old guys left. I mean, outside of Aaron Rodgers and like I can't even really name anybody else that's old. I mean, Russell Wilson's considered old, and he just signed a 5-year deal with the Broncos or something like that, or I think it was like a 7-year deal. So it's like outside of Rodgers, there really isn't anybody else that's old in the NFL.
But like aging quarterbacks would be like Dalton, Andy Dalton would be one. Russell Wilson is kind of getting up there too. Kirk Cousins too. He's in his early 30s.
I
Derek
think
Carr.
he has like a decent amount of time left.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely do. They still have a lot. A lot of them do have a lot of time left in football. But there are ones that are kind of aging up there too. In that sense. But yeah, no, they're definitely not as old as like an Aaron Rodgers who's in this league. Like Aaron Rodgers could be if well, he definitely has to be the oldest quarterback now in the league now with Tom Brady gone. Um, but yeah, no, I think Young, Stroud, and Richardson are all going to be taken at least in the top four picks, one of the top four picks. Will Levis, like you said, not much media coverage here. Little bit of news stories here and there where he could be the next Josh Allen. He has the cannon like Josh Allen. He's mobile and athletic like Josh Allen, built like him. But I don't see him really being taken right away. I don't see him really being taken in the first round unless, like you said, Seattle or maybe a Detroit would want to kind of take an early rounder in to see what they could do, but I don't think so. But he may not even be, in my honest opinion, he may not even be drafted this year, at least. He may not even be drafted this year and can look in getting drafted for next year.
Who are we talking about?
Will Levis.
Oh yeah, well no, he'll be taken. Are you talking about fantasy football? Or are you talking about like?
No. This is NFL draft.
Yeah, no, he'll probably be taken because once he's like comes out, he can't like uncome out. But I think what you might see a team do is like you might see him trade up from the 30s, like the mid 30s to up into the first round so that they can get that 5th-year option.
And I think that's something that he probably should be looking into.
Yeah.
I think he could definitely do that. They'll give him some more time to develop, and then he'll become a much higher prospect going into next year. But if he wants to enter this year and he thinks he has a big shot of being drafted somewhere, by all means, that's definitely up to him. But I just feel bad for him because he's overshadowed by the big guys like Stroud and Young.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to be, I don't think he's getting drafted really anywhere higher than, anywhere really high in the first round, unless there's a team that wants to go all in and get him already. But I personally don't see him being drafted in the first round.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's like 6 semi-good quarterbacks. Like I said, I mentioned Hendon Hooker. I don't know who the 6th one would be, but I remember like another name being thrown out there, but I forget off the top of my head.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my mock draft. I got to do more research on it so that way I can kind of give more of like an ideal setting of what teams are going to be drafting like their most needs. Like we said, Carolina, Houston, and the Colts are going to be the teams that are going to be getting a quarterback, no question about it. But there could be some other teams like the Raiders, like we were just talking about before. The Raiders could potentially get a wide receiver, but I also believe that they could also be getting a corner too, because I think there are some really good corners in the draft this year that are going to be worth taking. And the Raiders, knowing how bad they were on defense last year, especially in that secondary position type of deal and the corners, they could potentially take a corner in the first round. And I think that's what they should do. The Bears, I don't know what the Bears are going to do. Well, I think the Bears, in my honest opinion, are going to be taking linemen in this draft. I think they need to beef up on that offensive line if they want Fields to be the guy. He's going to need protection. And I think getting offensive linemen in the first round is going to be the Bears' best shot of, being able to be a semi-decent team next year. At least, I mean, despite with what they've been able to do so far in the offseason, they still have a lot more work they got to do. The Eagles will be fine. They don't really need to go anywhere crazy, but if they did need to pick up something, I think their most weakness of their well, they lost Chauncey Gardner Johnson to Detroit. They lost him in a trade. Well, not lost him. They traded him up. They traded him away, and in that kind of position of where Gardner Johnson was, they could be looking a defensive player. They could be taking something like that, but they don't really need to go anywhere too crazy with that. And then the rest of the other teams too will be drafting like needs of what they do want. So like not so like what's up?
Johnson was signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles, so they couldn't. They wanted to bring him back, but he wanted to play with a different team, and I think he wanted more money. But I don't know. There was a whole story about him going back and forth between teams, seeing if he could get more on the market, and he took a lesser deal with the Lions because that's what they offered him. Eagles offered a bigger deal, but he thought he could get more in the open market than what they offered him. And then by the time he came back, they already signed Bradbury and Slay, so they couldn't offer him as much. So he ended up with the Lions. But what from his interview, he's like, he said the environment is different and it's like a better team for him. I don't know, if you ask Eagles fans, they'll go off about it on how he should have stayed there. He did this, and they're on the cusp of the Super Bowl again, and this, that, and the next thing. But we all know how Eagles fans are with their team and their diehardness. But yeah, I think it's a deep wide receiver pool. We might see 4, we might see 5 go in the first round. That's always fun. I love seeing offensive guys. Apparently, it's like a deep tight end pool, which we really never see. But seeing even 2 or 3 go in the first round would be cool. I think the last time we saw 2 was like O.J. Howard and David Njoku go back in like 2017 or something like that. But outside of that, there's nothing much. We got Bijan going maybe in the first round. Hopefully, I'd love to see that. I always love to see my running backs go in the first round. Other than that, I don't think there's like offensive and defensive guys or linemen, and then there's a couple good corners. I don't know who they are off the top of my head. But the draft is always a good night to sit down and watch the NFL or watch teams draft new players for 2-3 hours on a Thursday night. It is the 27th, by the way. You had the date correct.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure on that. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a nice draft. I think the first round is going to be very exciting. I think we're going to see a lot of crazy things happen. We could see some potential trade backs too. Couple other teams that could be potentially trying to trade up their picks too. Like we said, Carolina could be potentially trying to, make a deal, negotiate a deal where like another team could potentially earn that number 1 spot overall. Which was kind of the talk, which would be funny. It would be the worst idea for Carolina to do. But it wouldn't be something that would completely shock me by any means.
We just haven't seen it in a while. I think normally a team trades up to the first pick, and then that's where they sit. We've never seen a team trade up to the first pick and then trade back from the first pick.
No, not very often. Not very often. There was talk about it that they were going to do it, but I don't know if they're going to. I haven't heard any more news sources about it, which would be kind of cool. I kind of want to look into it and see what that would look into. But as far as the draft goes, though, I'm excited for it. But I do believe we're going to see 3 quarterbacks get drafted in the first round this season, though. And I think they're all going to be Bryce Young, CJ Stroud will get out of the first round, and Anthony Richardson. I think Anthony Richardson is going to the Colts. And I think CJ Stroud is going to go to the Texans. And I think Bryce Young is going to be drafted number 1 overall to Carolina.
Yeah, I have 2 different theories. I think mainly I just see CJ Stroud go first just because he's the most pro ready and he's, bigger built than Bryce Young. And then I either see Bryce Young going second to the Colts and then Richardson going or second to the Texans and then Richardson going to the Colts, or I see the Texans taking. See, I don't know, to be honest, because if they can't get C.J. Stroud and they have to take Bryce Young, I mean, I don't know how people feel about Bryce Young's size, or like I know he's like pro ready, but like maybe he shouldn't go to the Texans and maybe he should go to the Colts, or like I don't know. But I mean, other than the quarterbacks, like I said, it's deep at wide receiver. We could see some teams trade back or trade their pick to get a wide receiver. I mean, the Lions last year went from 32 to 11 to get Jamison Williams. So, we all saw how good. Well, he only played like 2 games because he was hurt, but like we all saw how like fast he was on that first touchdown. So hopefully we get to see how elite this guy is next season, because we all know how good he was in his last season at Alabama. He was an Alabama wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep forgetting because there was like, it's like who plays with who. And then there's like Jackson Smith-Njigba. He was the third to Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. So like he's coming out. So we might see teams trade up for him. Bijan Robinson's supposed to be as good as Saquon Barkley. So like, I know the running back position is devalued, but he might go in the top like 15. It's just always a fun night, and I love watching it every year. So, I mean, one year I was hoping to get out there for Vegas, but I didn't think that was last year. I thought it was either this year or the next year, and I had the money. But, one of these years I'll definitely do it again in person. I went to the Philly draft when they were in Philadelphia. That was fun, but I would love to go back because that is a fun experience.
Oh yeah, no, and if you ever do, let me know and I'll count myself in, because I would definitely go with you for that. I know last year, like you said, last year was in Vegas, and I'm sure that was definitely a heck of a time for everybody to go out there. But yeah, I would definitely go to the draft with you if you wanted to. So count me in for that. That would be awesome. That would be a nice trip out there, or to wherever they will be next.
Yeah. I forget where it is this year. I'm not too sure on where it is this year, but I know it's I'm not I wanted to say it was in Nashville, but I don't think that's right. But
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where it was either. I can't remember where it is this year. All right. So with all that being said, Scott, do you have anything else you would like to add?
nope, not on the draft.
All right. So, I know everybody, that's going to be it for this podcast. I know, we're about to run out of time soon. So, just kind of want this, I'll stop the share real quick. So I know, the season's, long ways to go, but we're in the off season now. A lot of crazy things are happening, a lot of crazy things, trades, drafting, mock drafts coming out soon. And as far as after the draft, we'll be seeing the schedule release come out soon. So we'll definitely see once everything is kind of not finalized, but like as far as like what are like best potential matchups are, we're excited for it. I mean, we know it's the off season, but we like the off season. We kind of like to see what they kind of do, like what teams do in the off season, and we enjoy doing this with you guys. And we really look forward to the draft. And once when it gets closer to the draft time, Scott and I will get together in a podcast and we'll kind of come up with like our own mock draft and kind of compare and contrast of where we think players are going to get drafted. And we'll let you guys take a vote as far as like who do you think is more accurate, myself or Scott. So that could be something to be looking forward to in the near future. So Scott, do you have anything else that you would like to add for tonight?
No, I think we can also we'll probably do one of the draft or like after the draft, pre-draft, and then for the schedule we'll talk about the best matchups and what we're both looking forward to. And then after that, we'll try to throw in like, some NFL games, like NFL game, our idea, would you rather quarterback edition or something like that, or like, head coach, something to pass the time in the summer to, keep the content rolling.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's very important for us to do that. Because we know how summer gets. We know a lot of people get busy. We know there's other sports going on at that time too, like baseball, for example. So that's going to keep a lot of people busy. But yeah, no, it would be something to really look into. I even come up with my own content too on my own too, but Scott does help me a lot. So, Scott, as always, thank you so much for tuning in tonight with me. Thanks for helping me out tonight. Give me your best knowledge and everything with everything going on. You really helped me out a lot. Yeah, we're looking forward to another podcast with you soon, man.
Yep.
And with all that being said, everybody, before I close off this video, please, one more time, do me a favor, drop a like on this video, leave a comment down below. The content means everything to not just me, but it also means a lot to you guys. And I need more ideas. I need more topics to talk about. And with everything going on in the NFL right now, it's so broad right now. There's so many things to really talk about, and it's hard to like narrow down particular content to really talk about specifically. And with you guys being able to be like my followers and being able to really relate to everything that we're producing, it's all good, but it's also helpful when we get your feedback. So if you can please leave a comment down below, put a like on this video of what you like, what you don't like, maybe some things that you agree or disagree with. And if you also look down below too, you hit that little subscribe button, please hit that, because that's also going to help me out as well in terms of trying to get more subscribers and be able to get more followers in, so that way the content will grow and the channel will grow to be bigger and better than it already is. So please do all those things and the channel will grow. And just remember, I'm here for you guys. I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm doing it for you. So with all that being said, everybody, this is from Scott, myself. This is JP Football Fanatic saying peace out. We'll see you all next time. Thank you.